Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah. So my name is Krisanne Lindquist, and I'm a representative of both the museum where I work and Monhegan Associates, where I'm on the board. And in those roles, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to, I think that's our 4th in-person event in this year's Art and Ecology series, which is a collaboration between the Monhegan Museum and Monhegan Associates. Before we start, I want to thank both organizations for collaborating on this year's series of lectures and workshops. Wait for Bob to sit down. We also want to thank the Monhegan House for their generous sponsorship of our series. And the next event in the series, there's a couple things coming up. Tomorrow is a scratchboard workshop with Barbara Putnam. There are a couple of slots open. Yay! There's a couple slots still open in there, and you can talk to Laura after the talk if you're interested in signing up, or talk to Barbara. But Laura's keeping the list. The next talk like this will be with nature educator Kirk Gentelen. It's called Mushrooms Through Binoculars, and that's going to take place at the church on September 3rd, Thursday, September 3rd at 4 p.m. So different place, different time, because school will be in session. We're moving to the church, and because they don't have electricity, we have them a little earlier in the day. So 4 o'clock, September 3rd at the church. Really fun guy. We'll talk about fun guy. Sorry, I couldn't use this. He's also going to lead a mushroom walk the next morning, for which registration is required, and you can register through, I didn't realize this thing moved, through the Monhegan Museum website, the events section there. So a big thank you to all of you attending. It's your support that makes these lectures possible. We encourage you to support stewardship of the Monhegan wildlands by becoming a member of Monhegan Associates, which you can do through our website. Just go to the donate button. And to support stewardship of the island's cultural history and artistic history by becoming a member of the Monhegan Museum, which you can also do through the website, the Monhegan Museum website, or you can come up to the museum store when we're open and fill out a little envelope, and it's like old school, you remember kind of thing. So before I introduce our speaker, I'll let you know we'll be taking questions. Are you taking questions during the talk or after the talk?
If someone has a burning question, I'll stop.
Okay, all right. And tonight's lecture will be recorded, and if all goes well, technologically, it will be posted on the Monhegan Associates and Monhegan Museum websites within the next week or so. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce you to tonight's speaker, artist and educator, Krisanne Baker. Krisanne is a Waldoboro, Krisanne is a Waldoboro-based socio-ecological artist whose work concerns the rights of water, water quality, and availability locally and globally. She snorkels and dives, filming symbiotic relationships to give a voice to the voiceless beings with whom we are interconnected. Her multimedia glass installations and paintings are studies of the patterns of the natural world. And her fascination is with research on glowing marine phytoplankton, which sounds really cool, the ecology of these aquatic bodies, including our relationships to them and their connections to our beginnings. As a visiting artist in residence at the Bigelow Laboratory for Ocean Sciences, she collaborated with biogeochemist, that's like 3 sciences in one, Dr. Michael Lomas in Bigelow's world-renowned Living Marine Algae Lab. Baker's collaboration with Bigelow's scientists resulted in a large-scale installation based on the largest daily migration on Earth of marine phytoplankton, of phosphorescent glowing glass sculptures that are mutating due to climate change. That sounds really cool. Are there pictures of that in this?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Krisanne Baker is a former art and ecology educator at Madomic Valley High School, a former professor at the University of Maine, Farmington, and an avid ocean advocate. She exhibits and gives art and science talks nationally and internationally, and she has received numerous awards, including a Fulbright an International Bow Seat Innovative Ocean Educator Award, UN Women's Caucus for the Arts Fellow, and residencies from the Gulf of Maine to the Gulf of Thailand to the Gulf of Mexico, including the world-renowned Monhegan Artist Residency Program. And she's recently returned from a small island in the Gulf of Thailand, where she set up a ceramic arts program to educate and create work as public art outreach about the local coral reef ecology for coral gardeners. This amazing journey was all possible because of a meeting with a coral enthusiast here on Monhegan. So you never know where your Monhegan connections are going to take you. Her research, teaching, and studio practice intertwine as water advocacy, a voice for the ocean and its inhabitants. Tonight, Krisanne will be speaking to us about ecology education through art. Please welcome her.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Really appreciate seeing all these smiling faces. So I am going to be showing you, oh, look, there I am up in the corner. Oh, that's a little scary. All right, I won't look. I'm going to show you a lot of images because there's so much that I've been working with over the years. So I'm so glad to hear that this is going to be recorded, so you'll be able to go back through the images when you get on the museum website and look at them again, because I'm going to be going pretty quickly. Okay. Oh, the down one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's me in one of my favorite places, underwater. Started snorkeling when I was 3. Dad was a psych professor, sailor wannabe, so we spent all of our time on the water, in the water, under the water. And I find with the water, whether I'm on top of it or just looking at it or in it, especially in it, awe, a sense of awe and wonder and gratefulness for this amazing beauty. Also find myself not just the wonder of, you know, to wonder, thinking about things and curious about things. What is going on when I'm seeing so many things happening under the water? Interspecies relationships, and looking things up. Thank goodness for the web. It's really changed the way that I can make art, because hello, come on in. It's changed the way that I can make art because I can look up stuff the minute I'm like, what was that with the phytoplankton? What was that? Why is it making all this light and this beauty? And then come to find out that it made our breathable atmosphere on Earth possible. It took millions of years of these little microscopic, you know, pieces of algae to give off enough oxygen, but they finally did. So that, and it's also the basis for the marine food web. So without them, we would be nowhere. And a bunch of years ago, I was up at Haystack doing a glass blowing workshop for 2 weeks, and it was August and a heat wave. And there were people that were watching us, and he said, somebody said, hey, let's all go swimming. And so we closed up the hot shop at 11 o'clock, 20 people go trooping down. And I was like, oh no, because I hadn't gone swimming since Jaws came out when I was 15, which tells you how old I am. So, but there were so many people and it was so hot, and I'd been standing in front of a 2,300 degree furnace, so I was just like, okay, I'm getting in. The first person who jumped in, the cove just exploded electric blue, and I was just like, I've been sailing all my life and I've never seen so much phytoplankton all at once. And so I dove in with my eyes open underwater. And I like to say that I felt like a cross between Tinkerbell and Jacques Cousteau, because it was just like every single movement was just illuminated. It was just like unreal. So these are some of the things that inspire me. So as you see these slides go by as I'm talking away, telling you a little story. But I feel that one of the things for me as an artist and as an art educator is using education to get people to care, to create the caring, which then creates people's desire to take care of things, and stewardship can blossom. And so there have been so many different ways that I have been inspired. Monhegan has been one of them for 37 years now. I gotta remember not to lean on this thing. I'll go flying. So I want to show you a little bit of that. It's a shot from underwater, and there's a little crab down towards the bottom there. I don't know if you can see it. It's right in there. There's one of his claws. So beautiful. It just blends those gorgeous colors and the little markings, just blends right in with all the little all the different types of algae there. Oh, speaking of lion's mane jellyfish, I was just talking about the one in the cove this afternoon, which was tiny compared to this one on the left. That one was, you know, really big dinner plate size. And it was funny because my friend Jane, who comes out from San Francisco every year to go painting with me here in July, she said, Krisanne's the only person I know that when you tell her that there's a jellyfish in the water, she actually takes her camera and goes running into the water. Everybody else goes running out. So here's one of my paintings of that big jellyfish looking at it from underwater. And the thing with what I do is that I feel that so many people don't necessarily have the opportunity to be underwater, or they have fears about water, whatever those fears are based in. And so a lot of people don't see what's going on under the water. We look at the surface and say, oh, that's gorgeous. But, you know, and you think there's not much going on underneath there, but there's so much. There's this profusion of life. So this is a detail of an Asian crab down here. And you can see up at the top is the little bits and pieces of a lion's mane jellyfish up there. And that's a detail from this next painting, which is called Monhegan, Profusion of Life.
Beautiful.
And then, you know, way down in there, you can see there's the crab, there's the lion's mane jellyfish. But then I've taken phytoplankton images that I've studied looking through the microscope and water samples, and then blown them up and added them into the painting. You can see Manana way in the background there. This is one of my earlier paintings of Monhegan, when I was just looking more at like the color and the light and the pattern, and not so much the life. I was looking at the seaweed for sure, but I wasn't looking for like the phytoplankton or the, you know, the crabs or the things that would be interacting with each other. I was here twice as a Monhegan artist residence. That was so wonderful. This is a painting from the night series that I did that summer. This is another one called Little Spruce Sentinel at Lobster Cove. That spruce tree is like 30 feet tall practically now. It's grown so much. It's kind of funny walking down there. I always check on it. How big are you now? This is a view from Karina House looking over, don't tell Susan, it's looking at Susan's window and the harbor pass. I wasn't really trying to be a voyeur. This is from my second residency where I was focusing in more on the contents of the water here in Monhegan. And these panels are what they look like during the day. And the panels down at the bottom in the blue are what they look like at night when the lights are out. So I've added phosphorescent pigment into them because a lot of this phytoplankton does light up. And then there's a detail of that.
Wow.
And you can see here is a little lobster larva. Gotta have those lobster larvae in there. This is Monhegan, right? And then there's a closer, even closer detail of the very same painting. Lots of stuff going on. Here's a few of the art and science collaborations that I've done over the last few years. This was a teacher's workshop that I weaseled my way into, even though I'm an art teacher. It's like art and ecology. And the woman who was teaching it was from Bigelow, and she knew me because of my glass installation, which you'll see in a couple of minutes. But that was a week-long course, which was really great. This is some students at a workshop where I was teaching drawing live specimens. This one had a crab, which kept going around and around and around in circles. And people were like, how am I going to draw this? And so I gave them the techniques to do that. And they were all amazed. Wow, I can't believe I did that. I love it when my students say that. So here is one partial view of some of the glass work that I do. I like to work with upcycled glass. And so the people at Goodwill got to know me really well. I had about 6 months to get this finished while I was teaching full time, so that it could be up for July 1st when they were starting their series of cafe science talks. This is Marine Biological Labs in Woods Hole, who I most recently have collaborated with. Last summer, I had an exhibition there, which was the glass, and then also was invited out on one of their research vessels that went off of Bermuda, about 150 miles out into the deep to 4,500 meters depth, where they were picking up lines that were sampling things over 6 months, and they go out twice a year. It was just the most amazing trip. There was a fellow along who was looking for salps, which I won't go into explanations of everything, but we found this larval lobster here. And when it was stuck in the net, and we ended up, after we towed the net and sieved it out with seawater, that we get a concentration of things in the 5-gallon bucket. And then we're like, as the boat's rolling and pitching, we're looking over the bucket with a flashlight, looking for like cool creatures that we can dip out and then take out and photograph. And we pulled this out, and I was like, whoa, it felt like a piece of plastic, and it was super clear, like a piece of lucite. It was like the craziest thing. But that's a larval lobster for you. All the people working on the team to get these, I guess you'd call them flotation, but they didn't really float. They were all part of the line that went down 4,500 meters collection system. There's the team again, where we are in port in St. George, Bermuda. And there's one other artist on board with me, and we just had such a blast, like pulling stuff out of the buckets and then doing drawings of them. And we learned how to take photographs of them with a black background. And can you believe this fang tooth thing? And then this, I knew about this other one. It's a type of calanus. It's a copepod, fin marchicus. And the little blue things on it are its eggs. It's a female with eggs. So here's some of my work at Bigelow, the crazy glass stuff that I was telling you about. At night, it's also got phosphorescent pigments inside of a lot of things. And then I have sometimes a black light on the ceiling that just kind of goes around with little spots. And when I showed it also at Wells Estuarine Reserve, all the little kids coming in there just love dancing around underneath it. It was so much fun to watch. So here's me at Bigelow after school every day, and the assistant would give me like 10 different samples of phytoplankton that I wanted to look at, and I'd be like drawing in my sketchbook like a maniac, looking through the and trying to figure out, looking at these things, because when you look through a microscope, it kind of flattens things down. You can only see them from one surface, so they look flat, but trying to figure out what their actual forms were so that I could transform that into the glass. That was kind of a challenge, but a fun one. So that's looking from underneath, looking up. There's a mezzanine at Bigelow, and so the sculpture weighed about 600 pounds, and it was hung from a 25-foot height down to just above the top of my head. Plus we had like a little corral underneath so that just in case something fell and broke. We did have one piece that did fall and break, but it was a small one, strangely enough. It's also really hard to photograph. And a friend of mine who's a photographer came with me one night to photograph it, and she was like, "This is really hard to photo." I was like, "Yes, that's why you're here. Thank you." So they also gave me all these test tubes and glass pipettes, and I incorporated those into my sculptures. This is a
So those are
sculpture.
glass plates.
Those are glass
You didn't know
plates,
that.
but I specifically got them because they had
Yeah.
the ridges in them,
Yeah.
and which makes it look like a coccolithophore.
Right.
This was one of my favorite sculptures. It had like this little glass, small little shot glass at the end that was cobalt blue, so I called it Sweet Judy Blue Eye. And Shoals Marine Laboratory, where I'm going to be heading off to in just a few days. This will be that'll be my third residency at Shoals. You have to do a little bit of teaching. You're the only artist on the island for 2 weeks, along with a whole bunch of other scientists. This was a painting that I did while I was there to show, I used my own body. I guess you could call it a self-portrait. And there's some phytoplankton enlarged there in different places. And then the gulls kept leaving me these, little fish bones in the gazebo where I was painting, which I turned into my studio. So I incorporated those into the painting as well. This is my studio out in Shoals. Not bad, huh? They don't really have any studios out there. So you go out there and you're like, okay, where am I going to work? And I found this gazebo, which was colonized by the gulls, who are very aggressive at that point in the year because the youngsters are just about ready to fledge. So I walk up to the gazebo, I'm like making chicken noises, so they'll like not attack me. And they actually accepted me, which was pretty cool. Another series I was doing that same week was putting a light into the water down at the dock to attract phytoplankton to it, which then was a super plus. I didn't know it was going to happen. Attracted all these squid, and the squid were going around and around in circles, just scooping up all the phytoplankton in the ring of light. It was just so magical, so beautiful. I think I already mentioned wells, where I was showing my work, but I was also working with some of the volunteers out on the marshes, checking the traps for Chesapeake blue crabs. Yes, they are here in Maine, and I'll be interested to know when we find one here on Monhegan, because we have Asian crabs here. We have green crabs. We also have the lower right-hand corner, we have the Atlantic rock crabs. But the scientists there said that we've had Chesapeake blue crabs in Maine waters since 2018, which is kind of wild. But and kind of think of them more as like a refugee instead of an invasive species, because they have to move because their waters are getting too warm, and so they're coming north. Like stuff we have here is going north. So here's some lovely people dancing around This woman came back several times with her kids that particular day. They were having such a good time. And one of the things I had at that exhibit also, I had a microscope set up so that it was interactive. We had some water samples for people to look through. So when I was there, I was helping them use the microscope, and then I just left it there for the entire time that the exhibition was up. I think it was up for like 3 months. And I also had an interactive painting, volunteer with Department of Marine Sources. Okay. I had a painting on the wall that I'd started as just a background, and I attached a couple of silver markers to either side, and I asked people to go around and find all the different types of phytoplankton in the paintings or the glass sculptures, and then to come over to this big long piece and draw them in. And by the time the 3 months was over, this entire piece was covered with drawings. It was so cool to see how many people had gotten into it. I just loved it. This is one of the things that I do as a stewardship program that I went through with this now called Coastal Rivers. It was Jamrascotta River Association at the time. And one of the things they ask you to do is to give back 40 hours for the course that you've taken. And my first thing that I jumped into was horseshoe crab counting, because the horseshoe crabs were severely depleted, being used for bait. And we were making these things that had been around for millennia go extinct here in Maine. So it was part of the program to count them during mating season. Here's one of the things about volunteer work that I don't find so exciting is doing the grids and the graphs with the data, but the data is really important. So we do it. I do plankton ID specifically as a volunteer for the Department of Marine Resources. And then they feed their information to, who are they partnering with? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a really big ocean organization. So they're working together. So here's some of the stuff that I see through the microscope when I'm looking for some of the things that produce toxins that cause paralytic shellfish poisoning.
Can you tell us what those are called?
What's what?
Can you go back and tell us what those are called?
Okay, this one is a tintinid. This one is anopoli. I don't know what it's anopoli of. It might be of a crab. This one is a copepod, kind of like the Finmarchicus that I showed you earlier with the blue eggs. And then this one is one of my favorite phytoplankton. See, I have it tattooed right here. My son's drawing and my drawing combined. That one is over in the corner. My favorite is called the Cosconodiscus. And it looks flat, but it's actually like a drum. And you can see the gorgeous pattern from both sides. Let's see. This is one of the type of Noctiluca that really light up a lot. You'll see when you see the bioluminescence in the ocean. So here we go from the Gulf of Maine to the Gulf of Mexico. Pardon? Oh, there's people outside. Okay. Gulf of Maine. Everything here in this glass exhibit was done here in Maine, but I was also looking at plankton samples from all over the world. I started off with just Maine ones. I think the first 30 that I drew were all from Maine, and then I just started saying, okay, give me wherever. This is a painting that I was really happy with because I was trying to, well, you guys tell me, what does this make you think of other than phytoplankton now that I've told you what phytoplankton is?
What else? Like
Outer space.
Space, yes. And thank you for whoever said that too, because it's got that feeling of infinite. And I wanted people to liken the ocean to something that we pay more attention to than we do the ocean. So that was my way of kind of raising ocean awareness. A show that we did at the Rockport Library, where I put up the glass again and a bunch of paintings, and we had a panel with a couple of scientists that I knew from Bigelow and the artists. Piece on the left is a print by Julie Crane, who lives in Cushing, and the image on the front is one from a detail from one of my paintings. This is an installation that I did with antique piano rolls. It's called Climate Change Diet, Warm Seaweed Salad with Moon Jelly Compote. It was my, we were challenged to do a piece of art with just one roll, and I immediately was thinking kelp. And I said, oh, can I do many rolls? And they said, sure, buy your own, but go ahead. So I did this thing that was like a lot of seaweed, a lot of kelp. And I was imagining 20 years from now, what we're going to be eating a lot of. See that one too well, but this is kind of also another self-portrait, diving on a coral reef that's bleached. And coral in the foreground is bleached, and then the stuff with the brown is coral that's bleached and dyed and has algae growing on it. And not a very pleasant topic, but and this one is a sea turtle who's mistaking a plastic bag for a jellyfish, because they do eat jellyfish, and some of those plastic bags look just like them. So there's a lot of horrible stuff going on in the world, right? Not just in the ocean, but everyday life. But you can get depressed about it, or you can try to do something to make it better. And that's what fuels me, that there's so much beauty left in this world that I'm trying to bring people in to enjoy it more, to enjoy more what's happening underwater, to understand it better, to want to care for it. Because like my heroine, Dr. Sylvia Earle, who I met on this little island in Thailand last year, says, we can't just stop. We have to take care of what's left, and there's still a lot left. This is an endangered elkhorn coral in the Gulf of Mexico. Oh, and that was a whale shark. Took my son snorkeling with whale sharks in Mexico. Amazing experience, like having a bus coming at you underwater with its mouth wide open. But they only eat plankton. They don't eat people. Public school, I think I told you, I was teaching high school at Madomic Valley High School for close to 25 years, 5 years at the University of Maine. These are my high school kids down in Friendship at Walker Beach. And they've taken all the plastic that they picked up off the beach and wrote out Dare to Care, because it's the name. Gulf of Maine Dare to Care was the curriculum that I wrote for them to introduce them to caring for 50 plus threatened or endangered species that go through the Gulf of Maine or live in the Gulf of Maine right in our backyards, but most people don't know that that's happening. And so when I introduced that to the kids, they were dumbfounded, and I had them do scientific research, and I had them make art about it. Here we have 2 ladies who are doing coral sculptures in my ceramic studio. And those are the glazed results of a couple of them. I thought that they were fantastic. We also do glass art, where we slump it in the kiln and create just kind of like these little window pieces that get put up into nice big installations. And most of that was recycled glass, glass bottles that I would pick up and we would crush, or I would get like the underlayment clear stuff for free from the local hardware store around the corner from me. We did silk screen. That's kind of a messy one on the left, but I loved the whole concept of the drawing, and the drawing itself was gorgeous. Going, going, gone, only so many left. And then Save the Blue Whales. We had a couple for the, also for the North Atlantic right whales as well. So these are some pieces of sculpture from what ends up coming out of the lessons, and I have the kids make them like half models, like a boat half model, so that they can just be installed on the wall. And as you're walking past, you're in swim mode with these creatures because you're kind of right alongside them instead of what we normally see, which is just looking down at them from, you know, up above in a plane or in the water, you know, on a boat looking over the edge or whatever, to create a sense of empathy with the viewer. And the kids just loved this. They loved the whole project. They didn't even mind doing the science research. I never heard anybody complain about it. It was amazing. I had kids tell me that it was one of the most meaningful learning experiences that they'd had in all of their 12 years of school. And I was just like, wow, okay, I guess this is working. So I used to go around to different schools and share this curriculum with other teachers through the Maine Art Education Association also. There's some details of some of their beautiful sculptures, some corals, some sea turtles. This is what I would get as a surprise when I would open up the kiln in the morning after firing things. And I'd be like, ooh, you know, every day is like Christmas working as a ceramics instructor. It was really great. Yep, and then these would go up on the wall. Here's a wall outside my ceramic studio that was completely bare and just this open courtyard of nothingness. And I thought, okay, if we're gonna live here, let's beautify this. So we started painting marine things on the wall. And it ended up being close to 80 feet long. I had kids working on it over the course of like 5 years. Giant humpback whale going on there. I love to teach my kids upcycling. Also, I love to upcycle on my own work. This was made from steel cat food cans that I had been collecting for about a year. And I learned how to weld from the welding teacher. And then this fellow was in my foundations class and he wanted to learn how to weld. So I taught him how to weld. And then he finished the sculpture for me. So it was a collaborative effect. I loved it. Couple of different ways of looking at sea turtles. Sometimes we did watercolors, sometimes it was clay, sometimes it was glass or silk screen. This is another example of upcycling. These guys really had fun doing the clay recycling. They were having a good old time. I think one of them even got stuck there for a few minutes. We like to play in the clay. I also do a unit with my kids on people who may become handicapped in their life or may be born handicapped. And just because you're handicapped doesn't mean you don't make art anymore. So I propose to everybody, okay, what would you do if all of a sudden you couldn't use your hands anymore? Would you stop making art? What would you do? And I said, you know, so let's try throwing something on the wheel with our feet. I have a friend who has a congenital defect with no hand, and he is the best porcelain potter that I know. He does these huge, gorgeous vases out of porcelain, which is like throwing cream cheese. You know, the whole thing could just go like that. And he, you know, with just one hand and his forearm, he does this amazing work. So yeah, we do that kind of stuff to inspire people to look at things in different ways. This is a segment where I had an opportunity to go to Malawi for 3 weeks. My superintendent was so lovely letting me go as a combination of professional development and sick time. But I was to teach, I proposed to teach a workshop teaching the teachers about the water cycle in their rainforest. Their rainforest was being stripped of its trees, and they were starting to experience droughts a little further down the mountain. And so what we did was we went up into the rainforest. I hired one of the local forest rangers as our guide, and he was showing us the different trees and which trees. They have something there that's kind of like a pine tree, but it's called a blue gum, and it sucks up all the water. It's not even native to there, and it was causing problems. But then they have these other trees that really hold the water nicely, and then release it slowly so it goes down into Lake Malawi, which is the second largest lake on the continent of Africa. So what we did eventually was to do these large murals. We did one right on the wall in the classroom, water is life. Nikomo Dimatsi. Yes, I was trying to remember Malawian for water is life. It's been a few years since I was there. Lovely, lovely people, and they were so engaged, full of questions. Never thought about where they lived in this respect in terms of water conservation and the plants, and most of them had lived in this area but never been up into the rainforest at the top of the mountain. So that was a really great experience. I brought my microscope with me, and we took water samples all over the place and looked at them, taught a lot of people how to use the microscope, and then I donated it to their teaching program after I left. This is Brenda with one of her babies. She was determined, she was a teacher, but she was determined, I'm going to be part of this workshop, and baby was great. Another one of I brought a couple of big rolls of canvas that I packed in one of my bags. Oh, I had two bags with me. One was chock-a-block full of all art materials that I was donating, and the other one was my clothes. But this was one of the giant pieces of canvas. So what we came up with was we were going to have them go with the different teachers. They were going to loan them, from one person to the next to different schools, because these people came from all over different school districts to come to this workshop. And then they, so that they were able to use them as a teaching tool for their students. So I was teaching them, and then the whole point was for them to pass it along to their kids. Gulf of Maine to the Gulf of Thailand, just tweaking the Dare to Care program. Collaborating with coral gardeners. Most of you, or a lot of you, probably know Chris Corber here on the island. I met Chris just the year that I was getting ready to retire. And when I told him what I did with my kids with the Gulf of Maine Dare to Care program, he was like, wow, can you come do that where I'm going to be? And I was like, yes. It was a dream come true to set up a ceramics program on this little island that had no ceramics, no kiln, no nothing, and to turn it into this, just amazing program for the community. And people that engaged in it were just having a blast. I was teaching free lessons every Wednesday evening to the adults who could also bring their kids. And then we had some lessons in the afternoon that Muppy Pendergast was running, specifically for children after school. And when I went back for the second time in the 6 weeks that I was there, we had 170 people from 20 different countries, and of course, including a lot of the Thai locals. But it was, Chris told me, he said, keep track of, your numbers and what's going, so we can use this as data. And sure enough, the data again tells us something, and it was really amazing. So I had people making corals, but a lot of people gravitated more towards the sea creatures of the coral reef, and which was also part of what I wanted them to do anyway. And they just had so much fun. It was great. And then when I should have been sleeping, I was installing things on the wall. But it was just, I couldn't stop. It was just, it was contagious, you know, the enthusiasm, the energy, the love, and the excitement that people had to try to protect the coral reefs, because there was a coral reef surrounding this entire island. And you could go and experience it, or you could just learn about it. And so a lot of people came and learned. This is one of the guys from the local 6th grade class that I worked with, his class pretty intensively. Here's another joyous person she was making nudibranchs, which are also called sea slugs, but they're very colorful little things, having a good time. And I can't see his piece very well, but he made this great puffer fish. He was really, really happy with. And the place where we were on Wednesday evenings, this was the view that you got at the end of the evening when the sun went down. It was just like, it was like magic. There's a little detail, another puffer fish and some. These were bases for spiny sea urchins that didn't have the spines put in them yet, which I used bamboo stakes, little bamboo skewers, and I painted them purple and I stuck them into the holes that I'd made. This is part of the Coral Gardeners team that normally is out on the water or doing work on land, and they got to have some fun too. This is that 6th grade class and their teacher, everybody in front of the wall with their pieces before they got added to the wall. Oh, this is the best studio assistant on the entire island, I'll tell you. She guarded the kiln room and the work like you wouldn't believe. She was great. This is Kiki. I miss her. Can't wait to go back and see her. I trained 4 people to run the kiln after I left. The whole idea was that I not stay, that I train people from the island to take over where I left off, to empower the island people to grow this program. And so this fellow is now in charge of the program. One of the reasons that it ended up expanding so much is that this guy is from Saskatchewan, Canada, and he married a woman on Comac who is the pharmacist for the entire island. And he came to one of my first lessons and said, I haven't done ceramics since I was in high school. This is so great. Do you know how to make a kick wheel? And I was just like, I don't know how to actually make one, but I can advise you on the parts that it needs and how it functions. And he was like, I'm gonna make one. Let's do it. So we collaborated on that. He made this kick wheel. We got on there on the kick wheel, and he's a perfectionist. So he was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this right. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's a natural. So he's in charge of the whole program now. And it's just makes my heart happy, you know. This is a friend of mine who has passed on, unfortunately. 2024 was one of the worst global bleachings. And there were 3 giant clams in not very deep water off of the dock near where I used to teach. And I used to go visit this guy like almost every day when I go snorkeling. That was my research every morning, go snorkeling, look at everything, find things, see what's going on. And unfortunately he cooked because the water got so hot that when I left, it was April. And one of the last days that I went snorkeling, I stuck my foot in the water and it was actually hot. I was like, you know, like hotter than a hot tub. It was that hot. And so no wonder things cooked and bleached. While I was there, I had my sketchbook. I'm always doing stuff in my sketchbook. beautiful crescent moon one night. These are a group of fish called porkfish, and they're one of the reef cleaners. I call this my reef cleaning series. So there's coral polyps out right now that are feeding down here, and they're feeding on the phytoplankton. I bet you know a lot about phytoplankton now, huh? And so these fish are also cleaning the algae off the coral and helping to keep them healthy. Let's see, this is one of my last paintings from Comac. On the right-hand side, it's there's that line up there, that's the fishing fleet that are fishing for squid almost every night. I don't know how there's enough squid left in the Gulf of Thailand, because they're out there catching squid, and but there are a lot of squid out there. This one is also imbued with phosphorescent pigments. So when you turn the lights out, all the things that look like kind of yellowish green, they all ping. And this piece here, I call it Under the Coral Moon. The coral moon actually glows also, slightly different, a whiter color. And that was a little squid from the Marine Biological Labs research guy that we pulled out of one of the buckets. Right now, I have a couple pieces in a show called Waterproof at the Wendell Gilly Museum in Southwest Harbor. It's up through August 22nd. I was really honored that they took one of my paintings and they turned it into their big banner outside the museum. So when we drove up for the opening, I had no idea. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Here's the actual painting. It's called Reef Guardian Series. And unfortunately, I am overlapped on top of a black-tipped reef shark in the upper right corner. And then there's another one that you might not see way in the background there. There's two more actually down there that I did actually witness. This is all stuff that you're seeing is stuff that, oh, hey, that's even better, thank you. Stuff that you're seeing is all stuff that I have seen. This is not things that I do from photographs. I do film while I'm underwater, but I don't, oops. My clicker is not working now. I've had so many photographs, I think I wore the battery out.
No, I think if you just click the screen, it should work. Try it again.
There, good. Let's see. Oh, and tomorrow night in Rockland, there's a seaweed exhibition called Hold Fast, which is the thing that kelp has on rocks that holds them to the ocean floor. And there's 30 different artists all working with seaweed. And I've been working with seaweed for probably a good 15 years, and a lot of these people have too. So I'm really excited to go and meet a whole bunch of them tomorrow. And here's some of the paintings that I will have in the show. I have a group of the 9 that are 1 foot square. Some of these have been done out on Monhegan here. Let's see. Can you move this one more time back up to, because this little guy is one of the guys that was out here in the cove. It never fails when I stand there, you know, I'll be swimming and snorkeling, but if I come into the really shallow water and just stand there, inevitably there's a crab that comes and starts tickling my toes. I'm like, oh, hello. So I do end up having a lot of crabs. This one is called Study for Fight Club. There's 2 crabs. There's an Asian crab and a green crab that were fighting. And these little fish were hanging out, just watching. And I was just like, what are they doing? It's like they had a ringside seat or something. It was so strange. So I was talking, this was at Shoal Marine Laboratory, this particular one. And I was talking with one of the grad students who was actually studying to be a doctor. Physician doctor, but he'd been working with crabs a lot, and he said, I don't know, maybe they're just waiting for them to the crowds to tear each other apart. And I said, oh, they're opportunistic feeders. That's so amazing. And just, having these conversations with other scientists, other people, it's just, I think it's one of the things that really grabs people when you engage with other people, and you have a connection to the ocean, not just looking at it from afar, but really figuring out how it ticks is I'm not a marine biologist, but I'm a citizen scientist. I'm a scientist wannabe. My mom was a scientist. But I just love seeing all these different relationships. And this one is sargassum, which is the scourge of Mexico right now. And it's really due to climate change, the ocean temperatures rising, and all the pollution runoff and big ag runoff into the oceans. And sargassum starts way out to sea as a raft, but it's like a sanctuary to all these little critters. So if you were able to go up, wrong way. If you were able to go up to the painting really close, right in here is a sargassum fish, which I saw when I was in Bermuda on the research trip. And there's all these other little critters that are painted in there. It's a 6 foot by 4 foot painting. So if you saw it live, you'd actually be able to see all the little critters and stuff. But it just, seeing these symbiotic relationships to me, and that's why I call myself a socio-ecological artist, is because I'm trying to show their relationships. They have relationships like we have relationships. In Thailand, there was a pufferfish. Actually, he was a porcupine pufferfish, who hung out underneath this square cut rock in this little cave underneath this rock every single day with a blue spotted stingray. The two of them every day. They're both sharing the space, and always one had this little section and the other one had his. The stingray was always over on this side and the porcupine fish was always over here, but they were often be almost touching noses practically. They were like buddies. It was so beautiful to see that sort of thing happening. And that's the kind of stuff that I get excited about and like to share with people. So thank you very much for coming to my talk here on Monhegan. Here I am at one of my favorite places.